welcome to today's Grab and Go session at Deloitte. And the theme of today is procurement. We will look forward and we look at next generation procurement and the future of procurement. And in this technology environment, we will also focus on how procurement is becoming more and more autonomous and how you can use technology to increase and get more out of your procurement for less resources. So today with me I have, my name is David Colgan and I'm actually responsible for our SAP business in Nordics. And today I have two colleagues and one of our friends from Ericsson. Patrick is responsible for our sourcing and procurement at Nordic level. Yibin is responsible for our SAP supply chain area. And Jason Ratcliffe joins us today from Ericsson. And Jason has responsibility for strategy and execution in group sourcing at Ericsson. And they will share their experiences in relation to what is happening on the procurement market today and actually how it is playing out in reality in some of the biggest corporations in Nordics. So welcome to you all. But in the spirit of grab and go, those of you who have joined us before, we do like to involve you, the audience. So what we would like you to do is actually take out your mobile device because we'd like to make this section interactive. So if you have questions, and we would ask you to ask questions along the way, we would actually like you to go into Slido, and you can see here the QR code, or those of you who maybe have trouble getting in that way, can go into sli.do and put in the code 13978. And we will, all the way through this session, we will allow you to ask questions and to vote on questions that you find interesting. And towards the end of the section, we will answer as best we can the questions that you ask us. So please do that. And actually, I would ask you to go into it now because we actually have some questions for you to start off with. So about your experiences with procurement. So if you could take a couple of moments and scan the QR code or go into Slido. And what we will do is we're going to take a little longer with the first poll, but we will go to our first poll question. So what was the order or priority of value drivers when you started your procurement digitization journey? We're presuming many of you are on some form of procurement digitization journey. So we're going to give you a few moments to get into Slido, and you will continue in the same questions and poll area within Slido. So we're going to give you a few minutes, or a few seconds, sorry, just to get in and to look at the options that we have there around control and transparency, effectiveness, compliance, and efficiency. I'm sure you have some things that were on your mind when you started your procurement transformation or your procurement digitization journey. So I'm hoping many of you have voted, and we will go over and just to see how the voting is progressing. We have 16 votes. I would like more of you to join in because the more interactive this session is, the better for all of us. So thank you. 18 votes, 21 votes. This is getting a lot better. I'd very much like to get at least above 35 if I could. So continue, please. We're going to give you a little bit more time. Okay. Food for thought here. Efficiency and effectiveness are standing out ahead of the rest. Let's get above 30. Two more to vote. 30, we are above. Okay. So this is a very interesting pattern. I'll give you 5 more seconds just to continue voting. Oh, I think we've steadied out a little over 30. Okay. That's great. Thank you all for voting. And efficiency, effectiveness, and actually at the bottom, compliance. We will come back to this when we look at how you relate to other entities and other companies around Nordics. So let's go back. We have one more question for you. And again, continue voting. So has digitization of the procurement process, has it resulted in a difference in workload? That's a bit easier to answer. So again, you should now see the question in the same areas you have answered, and it's a much simpler response. Is it less? Is it more? Is it the same? Or is it unknown? Have you no results at this point? Again, hoping that those of you who have voted continue to vote. I'd like to get to 30. We're getting there. Ooh. Yeah, okay, very mixed. The same or more? Wow. More. Okay, and we're getting up to the magic number. A couple more votes, please. And hopefully there will be one more. Fantastic. Okay. The same and more. Okay, I think that's a pretty decent pattern, and we would like to comment on this when we go further in the session here. So next question, just to continue asking you questions, and please remember, get revenge and ask us questions towards the latter part of the session. So true automation of procurement processes. Have any of you achieved what you would describe as true automation in any of your procurement processes at your company? And this is really simple. So yes, no, or unknown. I'm not sure we necessarily need to have the same response rate, but okay, we're already okay, yeah, okay. That says it all, really. I'd like to get over the magic 30 if we could, but I don't think it's going to change the statistic. So very good. Thank you all for answering that. And then the last question we have for you in this section is which processes, if you have indeed automated any processes, which processes have you automated? And you can see some of the major sub-processes within procurement as options. So those of you who have any degree of automation in your procurement, if you could identify which processes have been automated to any extent. And again, thank you all. We're climbing up there, and now we have a little bit less. And maybe because as so many of you have indicated that you have not automated, that we may not get up to 30, but I would like to get some more. And now the votes are coming in. Thank you. We're getting there. Any more? Okay. I think I'm not even going to ask for the magic number on this, because many of you have not actually automated, as you've indicated in the stats. Let's leave it at 26 for this time around. So actually, that's really, really good information. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to turn it over to our experts, and maybe to you, Patrick. Patrick, so the questions have resulted in some interesting responses. Could you maybe comment on them, and maybe also on the context of, how they relate to other companies' maturity levels?
Yes, I think the votes here confirm what we see out there with clients and other companies running procurement. Many of you have digitized, but you are struggling to sort of realize the efficiency gains that you expect. And that is something that constitutes a sort of big challenge for you, because the effect of that is that you are still spending the same amount of time or even more time on processes that you would actually like to spend less time on, because most of you want to spend substantially more time on the strategic part of the scope. And we also see that to shed some light on how we see this across clients and procurement organizations, the challenge for many of you is that expectations are getting higher, on procurement organizations. You are required to improve process performance. You are required to deliver more value and new types of value. And for the ones of you who has taken now the level 1 step here, having digitized your procurement processes, what we see now, and as you have indicated here through the votes, is that that step alone, digitizing procurement processes, will not sort of be the fix here for the way forward. Something else needs to happen. Automation is a common word. It has been used for a while, but I would like to spend just a little bit of time on sort of making a distinction between different types of automation. You could say that partial automation here, level 2, is sort of this random bot type of random process step type of automation that many companies either are running POCs on or have introduced. And that is all fine, but we see that that is only the beginning of the automation journey. The real automation journey will sort of kick off as of level 3, 4, and 5. And the common denominator here for those steps is, first of all, on-scale automation. We're not talking about 6 bots, 8 bots. We're probably talking about hundreds of bots. So there's an on-scale automation bottleneck here that needs, or hurdle that needs to be passed. We also see that the automation steps, especially level 4 and 5, introduces not only sort of automation of repetitive tasks, but they actually introduce things like pattern recognition, self-learning capabilities, really taking automation into a different territory. So basically you can say that you go from simple automation to really providing intelligent automation. And what that really means for a typical procurement organization is that you're not only getting support with sort of operational and transactional activities or processes, you actually get sort of support with judgment type of situations or decision making, which is just another level of automation. You may ask yourself, okay, how many of my processes and how large part of them should I be able to automate? I would like to say that if we talk about the operational or transactional and even tactical processes, I would say that it's possible to automate and perhaps even make a large part of that autonomous, around 80% of those processes. Then you might ask yourself, okay, what are the sort of the prime candidates here for automation? Well, we have the usual suspects, so to say, which is the purchase to pay process. Contracting, parts of the contracting process is for sure a candidate for automation, and then analytics. But what we see now is that the sort of automation scope or the candidate scope has increased due to technology developments the last couple of years. So now it's actually possible to also automate things like demand management, sourcing, and parts of the vendor management process. So this is really interesting. So it's not only about P2P, it extends way beyond that. One of the things that you can also see here on the slide is the monitoring aspect here. You know, all of a sudden, when you depart from level 2 to level 3, that will also allow you to sort of stop monitoring. You know, there's no human involvement required to actually monitoring the process execution. This is for many clients a scary sort of thought that there are unmonitored processes, but there are two things to be said there. First of all, each company and each procurement organization needs to find their balance between sort of monitoring and unmonitoring. That balance needs to be found. And secondly, what the unmonitored aspect brings to the table is that the procurement organizations, their involvement, instead of being sort of a full manual involvement in the execution of the processes, the involvement could to a larger extent be sort of exception-based or alert-based. That is, of course, a much more efficient way of running procurement processes. And what would the end impact be here if a procurement organization would actually go through this journey and end up sort of at level 3, 4, 5? Well, first of all, the move will be made, really realizing efficiency gains as a result of that. The sort of bulk process execution will be done automatically, unmonitored, and your involvement will be sort of alert-based, exception-based. That would also, in the end, mean that you can flip the pyramid, meaning that you will spend less time on operational and tactical aspects, and you will spend substantially more time on strategic aspects. And that is where the value identification and value creation is. So that was a point of view from us on sort of the future of procurement or the journey towards autonomous procurement.
Very interesting, Patrick, and thank you for those points. What I would like to do is turn over to Jason. And Jason, at Ericsson, are you seeing these types of trends? Are you embracing these types of automations, and are any of your procurement processes autonomous? And what efficiencies, or if any, are you seeing? So a lot of questions to you. You can take them as you like. But Jason, how are you seeing this at Ericsson?
Excellent. Thanks, David, and good morning, everybody. I must say, just before I go into some of the detailed responses here, I was very relieved to see the response to your survey at the start, right? So obviously I'm in good company here. It would be a bit embarrassing if I join and everyone is automated and have their efficiencies in place, and it's level 4 company that we're sitting in here. But anyway, from an Ericsson perspective, I would say that we're sitting around about level 2. We've been on a digitization journey for approximately 3 years now, where our focus predominantly started off on a platform deployment perspective. And then obviously as part of platform deployment, one has ambitions to eventually automate systems and processes. For us, just like many of the responses here, that efficiency gain was key, right? And the promise at the start of the digital transformation was at least a 20% efficiency. But what we've actually seen, unintended impact, is actually an increased level of control within our sourcing process. So in the past, before deployment of digital platforms, what we saw is that people were sending out an email, putting together a very quick spreadsheet, and engaging with suppliers to get pricing in place, doing some kind of a system registration. The implementation of digital platforms is actually forcing people to follow processes. So if I take a look back 2 or 3 years ago, we believed that we spent about 60% of our time on strategic activities. We're now down to 50% of our time. So obviously we're going the wrong way. It doesn't mean that we don't have bots deployed already. Predominantly our bots are deployed in the purchase to pay part of the process. I think we've got 50 plus bots. It's actually simpler to do an implementation there due to, let's say, the alignment of the process, right? A lot of work has been done there. If I look at the source to contract part, that's where a large amount of our effort actually sits today. We've got a couple of bots, but it's very individual use case specific, and it's not really something that we can industrialize. So it's more something that, excuse me, a category has come up with, and they've done a little bit of automation there. Looking back at where we are, right, from our automation, one of the key challenges that we've then come across, which is not a surprise to anybody, but it's still run into these things, is then master data quality. So if we look at our approach to automation, coming back to that master data quality, what we've identified there is that we actually need to do a process simplification first before you do the automation. So the bot and automation activities that we have done requires a lot of operational support afterwards because the process isn't stable. So we're actually going to have to reinvent the wheel. But process simplification first. I know it sounds really 101, but that's been, let's say, secondary focus for us because of the drive for platform deployment, believing we'd get initial efficiency. Now we take a step back, we go into process simplification. We have a team in the organization that just roams around looking for opportunities to automate. They basically work across the whole of Ericsson. So if you have an idea of, I think this is a repetitive task, they do an analysis with you and they do some kind of an automation. But we're not really seeing super gain there at this stage. If we look at our ambition for automation, obviously it's what Patrick says, 80%, that would be fantastic. Getting our teams focusing again on, let's say, strategic activities is great. But what we're doing now is we're going to fix master data first. and we're going to detail out our price books to the level that we actually need to bring in granularity or more granularity, because that drives a lot of requests out from the organization that we cannot respond to. Secondly, is that we will automate what should be automated. It's very easy to run around with this AAA team that we've got and automate anything that moves. But unless your process is stable and super efficient, you're just automating a mess, right? So automate what should be automated. Secondly, thirdly, then is looking at what other activities we can do to free up our strategic sourcing managers. And one of the key items there is actually end user empowerment. That's where we see autonomous procurement really will come into its own, is when you find a way that the end user can actually get pricing, interrogate agreements in a kind of I would say, compliant and controlled environment, allowing our sourcing managers not to be the postman or the parcel delivery running around on item-based pricing activities. That, I would say, improvement of process then comes back to our simplification drive.
Interesting perspectives, Jason. Really interesting to hear that despite the amount of focus you've had on automation, that you still perceive that you are less efficient, than you were before. I mean, obviously it's a journey you're on, but can you see light at the end of the tunnel? Are there areas where you think now the tipping point, we can see where that will be?
I think we're going to get there, but it's going to take us at least another 2 years to achieve that tipping point, right? I don't think it's something we're going to solve in the next 6 months. I think partly driven by the large-scale platform deployment that we're busy with right now, right? So 3 to 4 big platforms that we're deploying. Those systems need to start. We need to interconnect those systems, because our approach is to go for best of breed, right? Not to get one that can do everything. But if you go for best of breed, then you get a couple of horses in the stable. So that we need to sort out first, getting our master data cleaned up and established. I would say another 2 years before we will really start looking at large-scale automation.
Okay, but that's interesting. Maybe just to bring Patrick into this discussion and maybe also Yibin, just what Jason has said there about where they are on the journey. We've seen also the responses from the audience in relation to our poll. How are Ericsson more advanced than other companies, and how are other companies also compared to Ericsson's journey? Are others using different technologies or different mechanisms? Patrick, can you say a few words about that?
Well, I think Ericsson's or Jason's description here matches really well where most clients are today. And we see that clients typically struggle with sort of enabling the automation. Jason mentioned master data, that's for sure a big ticket. Standardizing, harmonizing processes, consistent process execution, creating templates that enables the processes, onboarding suppliers. Suppliers need to get used to a more automated way of working. So I think it's a very representative picture, but I think it's sort of a bottleneck that procurement organization just needs to get through, sooner or later. So.
Okay, great. I hope the A team that travels around, I certainly would like a visit from them. Certainly when I do procurement myself, it would be good to have some help and someone to help automate that. I think the end users, I hope, are at least getting a good experience, by being helped and digitized together with them. So fantastic, really good perspectives from real life, and also from what we're seeing other companies doing, what we're seeing trends on the market. What I'd like to do though is to just maybe pause here and go back to you, the audience. We have a couple more questions for you, which I will hopefully come up here. But firstly, I just want to remind you, because the remainder of this grab and go will take place on Slido. So we will continue to ask you a couple more questions. And then what we'd like you to do, though, is now you've heard the experts speak. You've heard Patrick. We have Yibin also on the technology side. and we have Jason in terms of own experiences. We would like you to ask questions to our panel. So please do, and please, if you see a question that you like the look of and would like answered, please vote on it. We will try to answer those that receive the highest number of votes. So again, everything from here happens in Slido. All right. So, question for you. And when do you think procurement will be autonomous? And here, I think most of you, if you have a technology interest and are looking forward, many of you will recognize this is May the 4th. So some of our questions will look well into the future for the day that's in it. So this is the first of that type. So please have a look. And we have given you a lot of room for maneuver here. Also to have a little fun with us. So I'm going to go over and show you the responses that we're getting. All right. Okay. So there's no one out in. There's no one out with Luke Skywalker at this point in time, I can see. Okay, so the turn of the decade, fantastic. That is great. A lot of us really believe that we will have autonomous procurement in the not too distant future. I'm going to wait for the last to vote, but there are a few that are in the mood of the day, I can see. So who don't necessarily believe that we'll be fully autonomous, but yeah, let's see. Maybe not our generation. Okay, thank you all for voting. Next question. In the future, what will require human involvement? And again, yeah, not too many options for you, but have a little think about where you think humans will absolutely be needed in a more autonomous procurement process. And we will go over to the poll and see how that's going. Yeah. Okay. There are more than one you can choose, but actually interesting to see that most of us are believing that there's less need for humans in the end-to-end process execution. Approvals, yeah. Let's see how machines can make those. But again, some people believing that there is a need there. But obviously, most of you focused on where business should be involved and humans should be involved on the more strategic and tactical decisions. Great, and we are above 30. Thank you all for voting. We will share also the results of the Slido with you all when we share the material. And then the last question we have, the hurdles for autonomous procurement. What are they? And many of you, I'm sure, are putting together business cases and maybe even trying things yourself, or maybe you're as far as Jason and Ericsson are in your journey, and you're seeing the hurdles for yourselves in real life. So please vote on where you see the challenges and hurdles for autonomous procurement. And we'll turn over to the poll. Oh, wow. That's one I didn't expect at the top, but very, very interesting. So let's try to get over 30 on this one. I think there are a lot of options. So culture, wow. I think we'll have to dwell on that one a little bit before we go into questions and answers. Information readiness, skills, trust, technology. I think many of what Patrick and the comments from Patrick and from Jason have pointed in that direction. Some of you say technology. That's interesting to see. I think we can also come back to that in the Q&A session. And insecurity is way down the bottom. Okay, that is a result, I would say. 32 responses and coming. Yep, fantastic. Thank you very much. Culture. Wow. So before we go over to the formal Q&A, I have to actually go to my expert panel here, because that's maybe a surprise for me. Let's see if it's a surprise for any of you. Jason, maybe if I can go to you, and culture. What can you translate that for us?
Yeah, so actually I've been voting. I don't know if that's allowed or not allowed, right, being on the panel, but culture was actually one that I voted for. And in our process of digitization and automation, what we've seen is there's a huge reluctance of people to actually let the work go, right? So it's part having your stakeholders adopt, right, the usage, but right now our biggest challenge is our own organization, right? Accepting that there is a shift, accepting that we need to do things differently. They all say that, oh, we want to spend more time on strategic work, but at the end of the day, they still like doing those little odds and ends and a bit of busy work. Feels like it fills their day and they feel like they're being productive. But yeah, culture for me, that's a huge challenge. So yeah, I think technology is probably more available today than what we're aware of. And I've seen some pretty smart stuff, but it's that adoption, right? That's going to be the challenge.
Okay, that's an interesting perspective on that. Thanks, Jason. Maybe if I can ask Yibin, so technology was pretty far down the list of hurdles, but it was still there. Obviously, we also saw data as well as part of it. Maybe can you share some thoughts on how technology has advanced and is continuing to advance, both from a platform perspective and maybe from an some more interesting digital capabilities that are available now that maybe weren't available some years ago?
Yeah, thanks. It's very interesting to see the votes. Actually, technology is not the biggest hurdle from the audience group. Actually, technology has already been mature or getting mature in the market in this decade. Already past in the past years, there have been both from the ERP and also the cloud technologies to run the functional processes, but also there has been the next decade technologies ready or getting ready, which are the bots, which can do the rule-based logic, run it automatically. But also there is AI-based or cognitive-based bots getting ready there. We are not talking about the edge technology will not be ready in 2050. No, not at all. Those things are happening already around us in the market, in the industry. Some companies that we experience, they have already start to adopt those technologies. So the rule-based technology, they are already mature. They can already stretch the maturity to the level 4, to the on-scale automations, and also those AI and cognitive bots are getting ready there. They can stretch it even further to the level 6, to the autonomous procurement. So technology itself is mature. It's enabling the autonomous procurement. But it's still interesting to see because on the other side, it's probably not the technology itself, how powerful it is, but it's more about how to use, how to adopt the technology, which is more a little bit linked to the culture, to the perception from the company and the enablements.
Okay, but that ties very well together with what Jason has said there, and it sounds like again pointing back to why culture seemed to come out tops on the hurdles, because I think there may be some technology limitations. They are being overcome, but culture takes longer to change. That's loud and clear from what you say. Great. I can see some questions already in. Thank you for those. We have only 3 right now, but I would actually ask that those of you who are itching to ask questions to the panel, they can be also shorter and sweeter than those that are here. If you could maybe just use a little bit of time. In the meantime, we will take those that have gotten most votes. So I can already see a couple that we can start with. So they seem to have gotten at least more than one vote, which is great. And those of you who have other questions for the panel, please ask. So, okay, then, and I think we maybe have a few answers on this, because I think, Ericsson, you have mentioned that you've gone a best of breed, and I think we've seen also some of our clients go more for bigger platform strategies. So maybe we'll get 2 points on this. But what are the ERP suite and/or cloud solutions doing in terms of automating procurement processes in their procurement solutions? Maybe even if I could just start with, continue with you. You come from an SAP world, so maybe if you can answer from an SAP perspective on that, and yeah, and then maybe we'll go over and have a little perspective from best of breed.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, the ERP we are seeing in the market right now is already different from the ERP we see in the last decade. The ERP itself, plus the cloud solutions, they have been evolving during the past years, and they have also changing from just capture or record the key steps into a more mature, more smooth processes and without much gaps. And also from procurement processes, especially procure-to-pay perspective, it's also changing from more manual interactions with human into a little more self-service, and also partially it can be automated. It can be enabled by the ERP itself, especially a large amount of rule-based transactions. They can be automated or enabled by the ERP. There are also, how to say, not very new technology, but it's widely used in the ERP. It's like a batch job or those type of things that they also can take more rule-based stuff, much more powerful than the last decade.
Thanks, Stephen. And Jason, you've gone for, as you say, a best-of-breed strategy. What are you seeing coming out there in terms of automation possibilities within the platforms, within the cloud solutions?
To be honest, oh, sorry.
No, Jason, if you could, yeah.
Okay. No, I mean, to be honest, what the let's say best of breed approach brings is the requirement on system integration, right? Having a clear architectural plan when it comes to information flows. That's basically I would say, beginning level of automation, right? When I onboard a supplier in one system, it automatically propagates to the others, right? So that's one kind of automation. But what they predominantly sell, which isn't really an automation thing at all, is insight into data and information, right? So they have analytics and reporting capabilities, and it's a little bit management and control of your supplier base, right? So how many are this, how many are that, how many red flags? So there's that. I think on the risk management side, where we're also deploying a platform, there is quite some smart information gathering, right? So you could say that is a form of automation, right? The system automatically checks various external data sources that you define, brings that together for you into a single kind of a view on the supplier. And then that information you can then automatically, right, transfer into your strategic platform or into your transactional platform. But that's not really an automation, right? That's just a duplication of information, right? Brings with it certain risks that if you don't have a very clear information architectural plan in your mind, that you're going to start messing up your master data at the speed of light, right? So because all systems will just propagate and make an awesome mess. But real automation of I do this and then it automatically does X, Y, Z, that's not where we are right now, right?
Okay. Thanks, Jason. Maybe actually I'll continue with you again because there's a question which has got a lot of votes here now on real life examples of adoption of bots. So I think if there's anything you've told us is that you have real life experience. So so bots and AI in procurement processes. In Ericsson, what are some real life examples of that?
Mostly in the procure to pay process, right? So taking a look at incomplete purchase requisitions that arrive in the organization and then automatically either scanning alternative systems or going outside, right? And looking for the information from that supplier. So instead of a user trying to identify things, some rule-based activities as well when it comes to identifying correct category classification, right? So you have the supplier, which is a spend, it does an automatic category classification, things like that, transferring data from system A to system B, right? So from a format 1 to a format 2, there we use quite a bit of bots, taking out manual activities. Lots of success there. When it's come to trying to be more intelligent, which is, you could say, almost Excel macro advanced, right, into a bot stage, taking information, pulling together a report, making a nice graph for me, transferring that information across. That we've seen limited success of because of the inflow data is not reliable itself.
Okay. That's
but lots of success in procure to pay.
Okay, really good, and great input to those who are trying to figure out where to start. And actually, that is indeed the next question. So maybe I can ask Patrick, what advice would you give companies on where to start in digitalization?
I mean, there are some different types of answers to that question. One would be that the relevant procurement organization need to understand where are their sort of high volume, highly manual processes. Where's the bulk of the processes? Where do people spend their most time? I mean, that is one type of a candidate. Another type of answer would be, like Jason said here, the P2P process is for sure a prime candidate. But we also see that certain parts of the contract management process is for sure sort of a lower hanging fruit. Also, parts of sort of the BI, initial advanced analytics part would also be sort of the lower hanging fruit. But as I said earlier, we now see that the automation is extending into the other processes as well.
Okay. Thank you, Patrick. In the interest of time, I actually think we try to get to answer some of the other questions. So the next question, I think, is very relevant for you, Jason, because you probably have real life experience. The hurdle to pass in terms of getting buy-in for on-scale automated procurement. So you must be able to tell us a war story or something akin to that.
Biggest hurdle to get buy-in, I think you need to have trust in the data and the information that you're seeing, right? Which comes back to your master data quality. And that's been our biggest hurdle, where we've done also cute and interesting stuff and we've presented it just to figure out later that the information wasn't correct. That hits trust in a big way. So I think that's been the biggest hurdle is developing that trust yourself, right? And then also getting your stakeholders to trust that actually it is happening correctly.
Thank you. I'm going to continue to quickfire. So maybe to Patrick and Yibin, tasks or activities where human involvement is indeed going to be needed in procurement of the future. You have the looking glass into the future. So can you share some insights there? If we imagine beyond 2030, which seems to be the threshold date, where do we see humans involved?
If I start, I think it will be important to distinguish between, what level of automation is actually possible, what level of automation do I want to do, and what level of automation do I have to do. And I also think that every procurement organization needs to find this balance between, automation, unmonitored automation, and also monitoring. It's machine and human, and I don't see, like many other experts think, that sort of the bots will replace the humans. I think that the $1 million question is, how do you make it work together? 1 + 1 = 3. I think that's the big ticket.
Jason, you want to add anything to that? I see you nodding.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in that, right? I believe in automation and digitization as an augmentation of the procurement skill, not a replacement, right? And then I think huge role for procurement in the future is engaging far more with the business earlier on in the process, right? There's huge gains to be achieved from that, and less time doing analytics and insights. But this augmentation, it's like a personal belief, right? I don't believe in machines taking over the future. I believe in them making us better at what we're doing.
And actually, to be honest, I can't think of a more fitting closing remark for the day that's in it on May the 4th, so to speak. And I actually think we have run out of time. Unfortunately, there are 2 or 3 unanswered questions, and when you receive the material, we will ask our experts to comment on some of your unanswered questions. But I think we would need to wrap up this grab and go. So for that, I would like to thank you all for attending, and especially to Jason and to Patrick and Yibin for participating as experts in this grab and go session. I thank you for your interaction and for sharing your own views and for asking so many questions. So yeah, from my side, thank you. There are plenty more grab and goes, so we hope that we have hit the right note for you today and given you some insights into how the future may look for those of you who are involved in procurement, and also tips and tricks on from those who are in process with reaching the next level of automation. So thank you all. Have a great day and stay safe.